What if Anakin, Ahsoka, and the 501st went rogue before Order 66? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
Ahsoka, we need to talk.
Ahsoka looks at the clone commander, frowning at the grim expression on his face. This sounded serious. She excuses him from her meeting with Obi-Wan, and she gives her report and heads out with him.
What is it, Rex?
I don't know if it's a good time to tell you, but something has been bothering me. With all this talk of Sith Lords and hidden plans, I thought it might be best to tell you about something Fives learned a while ago.
Rex reaches into his belt and pulls out a holodisk that plays a recording of a military report talking about Fives and his inhibitor chip. Her eyes widen as she hears the report and how the Republic had simply accepted the findings of Nala Se without any investigation taking place. At first, she doesn't think much of it, but then she realizes that this is exactly what they want her to think. She glances over at Rex, whose expression remains grim, even a bit pained. Ahsoka feels a strange tingling in the Force, as if it's trying to warn her about something. This far out from the Republic, her vision seems clearer as she hears the warnings better.
Have you looked into this?
Not really. Kinda hard with the war going on. I never really had an opportunity to take a closer look.
Well, we have time now.
Now?
This place is secure for the moment, and Mandalore has some of the best medical facilities in the galaxy.
I suppose that's true. I'm just worried about what I might find.
Whatever you find, we'll work through it together. Like we always do.
Rex slowly nods, and the two head to the hospital. They also have one of the corpses of the clones brought in to examine. It doesn't feel right to use a clone this way, but at the same time, it feels worse. A medical droid begins the procedure as Rex and Ahsoka watch. They keep a close watch on the process, as well as what's happening on Sundari, ready to spring into action as soon as the situation requires. Thankfully, though, things stay quiet and the procedure completes. In minutes, they have the inhibitor chip in their hands, which the pair begin examining in the computer. As they work, their eyes widen at the data before them. Everything Fives had claimed was there, and more. These weren't just chips, these were hidden command codes, data files, and behavioral modifications that made it impossible to resist orders once given. Essentially, the clones were a ticking time bomb, and these chips were the detonators. Rex and Ahsoka share a glance, the sheer scale of their discovery sending chills down their spine. The tingling in their body grows stronger as she realizes that this is all part of their plan. She recalls her conversation with Obi-Wan about how the Chancellor has managed to remain in power far beyond his term, and how Anakin is spying on him. She suddenly calls for someone to contact Anakin, sending him a message. Ahsoka says she just discovered something massive and needs his help. She doesn't give any details to avoid suspicion, but tells him to go there immediately and to go alone. Ahsoka watches as the communications officer sends this message and hopes it isn't too late. It is risky, but she doesn't have a choice. Thankfully, her recent communications with Obi-Wan might make it seem like she just needs reinforcements. As Anakin finds the message, he is confused, but agrees. He is happy to get out of the spying mission he hates so much. The Chancellor is confused by Anakin's sudden departure, but doesn't say anything. Unfortunately, while they are waiting for him, Maul resurfaces in the lower levels of Sundari, striking at the soldiers' position there and forcing Ahsoka and Rex to go after him in the sewers. By the time they arrive, a battle is in full swing as troopers battle against his remaining forces in the tunnels, trading blaster fire and launching hit-and-run attacks on isolated units. However, their arrival seems to turn the tide as the Shadow Collective troops retreat deeper into the area, with Ahsoka and Rex in hot pursuit. They eventually manage to corner Maul in one of the maintenance pipes, but as they surround him, the lights open up, revealing dozens of Mandalorian warriors. But none of them attack. Instead, Maul smiles.
So, you have learned of my master's plan. You see now why I have escaped here, and why working together is in both of our best interests.
Worked with you? What do you have to gain from this?
I have no love for my master, and would enjoy seeing his plan fall to ruins. You've already done me a great service, bringing that other Jedi here.
Careful what you say. It may be the last thing that comes out of your mouth.
Oh, you blind little clone. Can't you see the key is in front of you? Skywalker is what Palpatine wants. If you were to kill him here when he arrives, you can prevent the suffering about to take place.
Okay, I think we've heard enough. We're not betraying Anakin.
Still blind as ever. Very well. If you do not have the stomach for it, then I shall take care of it for you.
He suddenly ignites his lightsaber and rushes at Ahsoka, who barely crosses her weapons and defends against the attack. Cursing, she parries his next strike and redirects it to the ground. Behind her, Rex aims for Maul, but the Mandalorians open fire, forcing him to take cover and support her. Ahsoka does a low spin, her lightsaber is flashing at Maul's feet, but the Sith apprentice leaps back and blocks and stabs at her stomach. She pushes it aside and then twists as his reverse blade comes sweeping down. Ahsoka is left to weave between these strikes and then kicks him across the face. The blow sends Maul reeling. He glares and then rushes at her, lightsaber slashing across the ground and sending sparks flying all around. These momentarily blind her and allow Maul to slam into her, sending her sprawling. The larger warrior prepares to bring his lightsaber down, but Ahsoka rolls out of the way. She blocks his next swing and shoves him back, but cannot stop the powerful force push he unleashes that slams her against the wall. Before he can finish her off, though, his warriors are all thrown back by a wave of force energy. From one of the tunnels, Anakin Skywalker emerges and readies his lightsaber.
Why not try that on me? So you've finally shown yourself. You've saved me the trouble of finding you. Then show me what you've got.
Maul snarls and rushes forward, his lightsaber practically a blur as he rains down attacks on Anakin, throwing everything he has at him in hopes of ending Palpatine's plans. But the Jedi stops each attack in their tracks, intercepting his blows and pushing them aside. He moves with almost contemptuous grace, checking each one and redirecting it. As Maul brings his lightsaber down in another blow, he can feel the strength of Anakin underneath, and then he shoves him back. Now it's Anakin's turn to go on the offensive. He brings his lightsaber down and sends Maul reeling. Rather than give him time to recover, Anakin slashes at the wall, sending sparks flashing across Maul and then striking low. He barely halts this attack as Anakin barrels into him, slamming his elbow into his gut and throwing him back. Maul doubles over, looking up and seeing the darkened expression of Anakin. The power is radiating off of him, as he can sense the anger around him. Then his lightsaber falls and slashes across his neck. The fighting around them stops as the Mandalorians stop and stare at their leader, watching him fall to the ground. They stare up at Anakin, still trying to process everything that happened, but then they begin to bow before him. Ahsoka immediately realizes what's happened. They now see Anakin as their new leader for defeating Maul. He picks up the darksaber, still clipped to Maul's belt, and nods, ordering them to surrender. Most of the warriors lay down their weapons without a fight. A few instead choose to run away.
So, what is it you wanted to tell me?
They pull Anakin aside and tell him what they learned about the clones. Rex pulls up a datapad that shows all the details of the inhibitor chips. As Anakin hears this, his face darkens.
All of this? The clones are programmed to do all of this?
With a single command.
But whose command?
That's what we want to talk to you about, Sky Guy. We believe it's the Chancellor.
What? How can you possibly think that? There's no proof.
Isn't there, sir? Most of these commands can only be given by the Chancellor. He was the one who claimed Fives tried to assassinate him. I don't like to think about it either, but it seems like the evidence points to him.
Not to mention he's been in power longer than he should. If the clones followed these commands, he can get rid of anyone who tries to say otherwise.
However, Anakin continues to shake his head.
The Chancellor isn't like that. He wouldn't betray the Republic.
Anakin, he's overstepped his power more than once. I know he's your friend, but we have to consider the possibility that he might not be the man you know.
Anakin stares at the two of them, seeing the sincerity in their eyes, but it doesn't make it any easier. He says he needs to process this, leaving the two alone. However, they know that their work is far from over, as they must remove the clone's inhibitor chips as quickly as possible. The entirety of the 332nd begin to spend several days removing their chips. The information about the inhibitor chips soon spreads across the army. All communication is cut off from the rest of the galaxy to prevent their activities from being revealed. While some wish to report this to other clone units, they know the risk of exposure is too high. But as they finish removing the chips and taking stock of their weapons, Anakin at last joins them, shaken but determined. Together, they begin planning their next move. He manages to get some information from the Mandalorians, but none of it is good. Even without Anakin, the Chancellor still has enacted Order 66, claiming that the Jedi attempted to stage a coup. To ensure security, he now declared the Republic would be organized into a galactic empire. This is the only confirmation of what they feared, that Palpatine was using the clones to consolidate power. After this, many Jedi were reported dead, and many more were missing, including Obi-Wan, leaving them alone. Ahsoka, Anakin, and Rex gathered to plan their next move. With the 332nd, they still have a large force, but Mandalore is no longer a secure base as the civilians are increasingly distrustful of them. They agree they have to leave, though with Anakin's leadership of Death Watch, many warriors voluntarily follow him into exile. Ahsoka soon finds the ideal base for them, Kyros. With the rise of the Empire, the Togaruta colony soon finds itself under threat from slavers and Imperials, and lacking a military of its own, they find themselves under the threat of annexation. A large Imperial garrison is established there, arresting dissenters and enacting Imperial authority as best they can. However, some issues remain, as reports say that groups of civilians have started fleeing into the jungles, prompting the Imperials to lock down the capital and send hunting parties after them. Blaster fire echoes through the dense forest of Kyros as Imperial officers bark orders as stormtroopers press forward after a group of refugees who scramble up rocky slopes. Their orders are clear that they are to make an example of these runners. Ranks of stormtroopers march after them, firing their blasters as they advance up the ridge. But instead of finding refugees huddled in fear, they find dugout trenches and barricades. But from above, Mandalorians emerge and fly out with jetpacks. Suddenly, blaster fire erupts from the trenches as the resistance turns this battle into a slaughter. Cut off and unused to the terrain, stormtroopers hurry down the ridge they came, frantically calling for reinforcements. Reports soon begin to spring up from the jungle of similar encounters. Officers call for reinforcements, saying that they believe the Togaruta have mercenaries. The captain reports that this ridge appears to be their headquarters, as the rest of the units are fairly small. The governor deploys reinforcements, ordering the stormtroopers to keep the headquarters pinned until fresh troops arrive. Lines of fresh troops and heavy weapons move out, but from another side of the jungle, Ahsoka and Anakin watch this unfold. They rush towards the gate, leading a contingent of clones. Hundreds of troopers rush forward, but the gate slams shut before they reach it. Anakin and Ahsoka use the Force to propel themselves onto the walls and begin clearing them from troopers to climb with cables. Meanwhile, Rex emerges from the jungle atop an ATTE, its cannon pointed at the gate, and blows through it, letting the troopers storm inside. Clones storm the city, their blaster fire cutting through Imperial ranks. Ahsoka weaves through enemy lines, her sabers flashing, deflecting bolts as she takes down stormtroopers. The Imperials, already stretched thin by the ambush in the woods, scramble to form a defense, but they are outmatched. Within minutes, the city falls silent. The last of the Imperial officers surrender, dropping their weapons. Civilians, once hiding in fear, step out cautiously, their eyes wide with disbelief. Then, the cheers begin. A wave of relief sweeps through the crowd as they rush toward their liberators.
You came for us. We're not the Republic anymore. We won't let the Empire take your home. We would like to help you, if you allow us.
I had hoped that we could enter this new era quietly and peacefully, but it appears this Empire offers no more peace than Count Dooku. We will allow you to maintain a presence here.
News of this victory soon spread to other planets of the Outer Rim, including many places that are distrustful of the growing Empire, including Onderon. There, Lux Bontari and Saw Gerrera offer an alliance with them, providing them with supplies and, more importantly, with the means to spread this information. Although Anakin has used the remnants of his forces to spread reports, his sources are disreputable, and many people opt against believing that. However, Lux still has access to some of the CIS information systems. The rebels of Onderon are already eager to join forces with them and begin launching raids on the enemy positions in the cities while hiding in the jungles. Soon the arrival of the 332nd turns the tide in their favor, allowing them to face the enemies head-on. The next few battles drive back the Imperial forces and secure the planet. With their network growing, the reports on the truth of the inhibitor chips soon spread. While the Empire is already in the process of replacing the clones with stormtroopers, it is still a blow to Palpatine's legitimacy. Many now question what else has been hiding, and many clone units still serve in the Republic and now begin to defect. Officers like Hauser, Cody, and Wolf take their squads and join Rex, leaving their posts and removing their inhibitor chips. Palpatine sees this as a huge threat and can undermine his military since the clones remain some of the best remaining troops in the galaxy. However, their numbers are depleted and Palpatine seeks to destroy them. Admiral Rampart is sent to destroy them. he manages to take out several isolated garrisons, revealing the weakness of their army. Though experienced and skilled, they cannot match the Imperials in resources, and as a formal military, this makes a guerrilla war difficult. Thankfully, their allies have more luck. The Mandalorians and partisans have more experience in these efforts, allowing them to compensate slightly, though the rebels begin to lose ground as the Empire advances. This places Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex in a difficult position, where they must adapt their tactics or risk being destroyed entirely. A decision is made to leave local defenses to planetary forces, with experienced soldiers to train them. This gives them more success and allows the clones to concentrate their forces and meet the Empire properly. Rather than just wait for them to come, they decide to go on the offensive. Anakin takes their reduced fleet and circles around to strike at their supply lines. With a Venator-class cruiser, they send out their starfighters in a series of hit-and-run attacks on the Empire's supply lines that the TIE fighters and Star Destroyers struggle to deal with, thanks to their limited range. The momentum shifts back and forth as they go in a series of battles, resulting in serious losses on both sides. However, amid this chaos, another clone commander offers to defect, Commander Bakara and his Galactic Marines, who stayed loyal to Palpatine. They even showed proof that they had removed their inhibitor chips ahead of time. With their numbers depleting, the prospect of replenishing their numbers, and from a well-respected unit, is too tempting to resist. They accept this offer and redirect their effort to a nearby staging facility with 2 defecting units meant to support their offensive, and contact his Mandalorians for support. Soon enough, the air over the Imperial installation burns with blaster fire. Explosions rip through the battlefield as Anakin's forces charge forward to the main base. Behind them, Rex and a sea of blue-marked clones rush through the smoke. Ahsoka moves like a phantom, her twin sabers spinning as she deflects bolts back at enemies. The 332nd fights fiercely, rushing through the ruined gates of the facility and battling through the streets of the staging post, driving back the stormtroopers. The fighting here is hard going, as they are fighting to the last man, forming barricades with blaster turrets and heavy weapons. This proves to be a problem for the rebels, though they are not alone. Descending from a nearby ridge, the red and white armor, the Galactic Marines storm in. However, their advance is slow, as they claim they are fighting heavy resistance down the rocky passes, leaving Commander Bakara and Commander Appo to clear them out. Anakin nods, but something feels off. The Imperials are fighting with unexpected aggression. He can see it in their movements. They aren't breaking. They're repositioning.
Something's wrong.
Then it happens. Blaster fire erupts from the rear. At first it seems like this is from the enemy army, but to their surprise, they see it is from one of the defecting ATTEs.
For the Empire!
Suddenly the assault grinds to a halt as the clones of the 332nd are thrown into confusion, trying to make sense of what just happened. Anakin's stomach twists. His lightsaber continues to block the oncoming blaster fire from the stormtroopers in front of them as he tries to organize a retreat. However, they are cut off as the exit is now blocked by advancing clones. The rear rank begins to suffer heavy losses, unable to deal with both attacks. But suddenly, Ahsoka leaps in front, barely avoiding a sniper's shot and helping defend the rear guard. Rex joins her and begins rallying their troops and organizing a defense. A new presence fills the air, thick and suffocating with darkness. Though the clones can't feel it, for Anakin it is clear as day and strangely familiar. It comes from inside the command center and calls for him. Scowling, Anakin leaves command of the front to Jesse, ordering him to push forward at all costs while he investigates this and hopefully slays the enemy commander. But as he enters the facility, he lets his senses guide him, cutting through the few guards who get in his way until he spots Palpatine alone on the bridge.
Young Skywalker. I had hoped you would be bold enough to lead this attack in person. Have you come to negotiate?
With you? After you betrayed the Republic? You enslaved the clones. You murdered the Jedi.
Yes, and you stand here broken, outnumbered. But you do not need to die with your men. Come back, and I will spare you. Together we can bring order to this galaxy.
Anakin stares at him, at the fallen clones, at the betrayal of the Marines. He could end the suffering. He could make the pain stop. But then he sees Ahsoka leading a desperate defense against her men.
Never.
Then you will die.
Lightning erupts from his fingers. Anakin barely brings his saber up in time, the energy crackling against his blade. When it begins to cease, he leaps up and slashes at Palpatine, but the Emperor sidesteps this attack. Instead, Anakin strikes the computers. Palpatine stabs at him, forcing Anakin to lean back as he pulls his lightsaber out and blocks this. He catches the third swing and redirects it aside, allowing Anakin to slam the Emperor back. But this only slows him down, and Palpatine soon comes at him again. Rather than face him head-on, he slams his lightsaber down on the computer and slashes it toward him, sending burning bits of metal against Palpatine. Hissing in pain, he recoils, but then comes at Anakin once again, swinging, his singed robes flowing behind him as he rushes forward. Anakin manages to intercept this thrust, but it stops only a few inches from his eye. Cursing, Anakin tries to pull back, but feels a sudden kick from Palpatine, throwing him backward against the wall. Laughing, the Emperor advances on him, dragging his lightsaber against the metal wall until Anakin lifts a computer and hurls it at him. This barely slows him down as Palpatine contemptuously slices it apart. As the debris falls around him, the Emperor rushes forward. This time, Anakin meets him and uses his superior strength to hold him back. All around him, he can hear the chaos from outside, amplified by the computers playing the recordings. Despite Jesse and Ahsoka's efforts, their forces are being whittled down. But then he hears something else, a report from one of the stormtroopers of another force interfering. And then, from the skies, a pair of Mandalorian gunships appear, depositing fresh troops. They aren't many, but they do allow them to contest the skies and support the soldiers below. Seeing this, Anakin feels a surge of strength and shoves Palpatine back. He rushes towards him and slams his shoulder at him, sending him sprawling back. Anakin follows with a low slash, but Palpatine blocks the strike. But not Anakin's fist. He reels back and snarls. A fresh wave of force lightning rushes to meet him, but Anakin is there and ready and halts the attack. Then he begins to take a step closer, facing the lightning and watching as Palpatine's eyes widen. This gives him strength, and he suddenly ducks low and sweeps his lightsaber, slicing it across his waist. The Emperor drops, without another word. The Mandalorian sees several critical areas, clearing the facility and giving the beleaguered 332nd troops some relief. The remaining loyal clones regroup, pushing the Imperials back. Even the traitors, Bakara and Apo, find themselves overwhelmed. Many of them are captured, and with several of their best units, their supply base, and even the Emperor dead, Rampart's offensive collapses, and the Empire is thrown into turmoil. Anakin and Ahsoka take the 332nd Legion and reintegrate it with the rest of the clone forces to march on Coruscant. With their rebellion growing, the two can march uncontested, securing more systems and finding the Imperials fighting against each other. They manage to restore order, and without a clear successor, manage to restore the Republic. While that is being sorted out, though, the two enter a new mission, defeating the last of the Imperial forces to free the clones, and tracking down the remaining Jedi. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.